Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Something that comes up all the time on pretty much every volleyball court you step on is the question of knee pads. Do you need them? Should you wear them? Are they actually helping? Or could they be holding you back?
Yeah, it's one of those things you see players of all levels kind of going back and forth on.
So today we're going to try to tackle this knee pad dilemma head on. We'll look at the arguments for and against wearing them, try to figure out why people feel so strongly one way or the other, and see if we can settle once and for all whether you can really play great defense with those pads strapped on.
All right, sounds good.
We got a ton of great material to pull from for this one. Coaching manuals, player development guides, even some sports safety guidelines. Let's see what we can uncover.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so let's start with the obvious. Why would anyone even consider wearing knee pads in the first place? I think for most people, the first thing that comes to mind is protection, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You think about all those dives, those digs, and by the way, for anyone who's new to the sport, a dig is that awesome defensive move where you basically throw yourself at the floor to keep a really hard hit ball from hitting the ground. It's super intense.
Yeah.
And your knees are usually the first thing to make contact, right?
Yeah.
And volleyball courts, let's be honest, they're not exactly soft and fluffy.
Nope. Not at all.
So knee pads can make a big difference when it comes to preventing scrapes and bruises, for sure. And they can even help with more long-term things like bursitis, which you can get if you're constantly pounding your knees on a hard surface.
Absolutely. And one of the things we looked at, the comprehensive guide, really emphasizes how important it is to use protective gear, like knee pads.
Right.
It can really significantly lower your risk of getting hurt. And that's huge, right? Because if you're not getting injured, you can keep playing, you can keep training, you can keep getting better.
Totally. And you can just play harder, right? I mean, if you're not as worried about smashing your knees every time you go for a dig, you're probably going to be more willing to go all out, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like that psychological edge. You're protected, so you can really commit to the play.
Right. And that could mean making some incredible defensive plays that you wouldn't have even tried otherwise.
Exactly.
And beyond all the safety stuff, there's also just plain old comfort. I mean, gym floors are not exactly known for being cushy. So those knee pads can provide some much needed padding. It can make a big difference over the course of a long practice or a really tough tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the less you're focused on how much your knees hurt, the more you can focus on, your technique, your strategy, just playing the game.
Exactly. All right, so that's the pro knee pad side. But of course, there's another side to this story. What are some of the reasons why players might hesitate to wear knee pads or even flat out avoid them?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is that they can actually make it harder to move freely, especially when you need to be really quick and agile on defense.
Oh yeah, that's something I've heard a lot.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You're adding this extra layer to your legs, so if those pads are bulky or they don't fit right, it can definitely feel like they're restricting your movement. And the comprehensive guide really emphasizes that agility and coordination are super important in volleyball.
Oh, absolutely.
So anything that feels like it's messing with those things is going to feel like a problem.
Right. Like, I could see how some players might worry that if they get used to having that extra padding, maybe their technique for diving and stuff could get a little sloppy.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that too. Like they're not developing the right muscle memory?
Exactly. And then if they ever had to play without knee pads, they might be more likely to hurt themselves because they haven't really learned to do it properly.
Yeah, that's a really valid concern. Like, I mean, the point of knee pads is to protect you, but you still need to have the right technique, to move safely and effectively.
Right. And we mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating. Fit is so important. If your knee pads are constantly slipping down or bunching up, that's going to be super distracting.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the comprehensive guide actually says that getting a good fit is like one of the most important things when you're picking out protective gear. It needs to be comfortable. It needs to stay in place. You shouldn't even have to think about it while you're playing.
Exactly. So it's like you got to weigh those advantages, the protection, the confidence, the comfort, against those potential downsides, like maybe losing some mobility, maybe not developing the best technique, and just straight up being uncomfortable if they don't fit right. It's a lot to consider.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting. A lot of the coaching stuff we read through and those player development guides, they often highlight the reasons why people feel so strongly about this.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, why are some coaches so adamant about knee pads while others are like, maybe not?
Yeah, it's like, what's the underlying philosophy there?
Right, right.
So, from what I've seen, it often boils down to two main things. Like, for the coaches who are really big on knee pads, they're usually super focused on player safety.
Makes sense. I mean, keeping your playoffs healthy is a huge part of coaching, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's this thing called the Safe Sport Training Toolkit, and it's all about creating a culture of safety in sports. So it's not just about avoiding injuries, it's about making sure everyone feels safe and comfortable on the court. And knee pads can definitely play a part in that.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the other hand, you have coaches who are maybe a little more hesitant about knee pads.
Right.
And it seems like their main concern is that players might start to rely too much on the padding, and they might not develop the proper technique for diving and rolling and all that.
Yeah, exactly. They're all about developing those natural skills and instincts, without any kind of crutch. And there's definitely something to be said for that.
Oh, absolutely. Like you want to be able to move freely and confidently without feeling like you're restricted by your gear.
Right. And Dr. Cannell actually talked about this a bit. He was talking about how back in the day, before everyone was super structured and organized, a lot of athletes developed this really strong sense of body awareness just through playing, you know?
Right, right. Like just messing around, figuring things out on their own.
Exactly. And that can be really valuable, in terms of developing those natural movements and reactions.
Yeah, I can see that. So basically, there's a whole philosophy there about letting the athlete develop their own skills without too much interference.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, as with anything, personal preference plays a big role. What feels good for one player might not feel good for another.
Right. You got to find what works for you.
Okay, so we've talked about the pros, the cons, the different philosophies. But I think the big question, the one that's really on everyone's mind, is this. Can you really play good defense? Like truly great defense while wearing knee pads?
Oh, absolutely. Like, without a doubt, yes.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd say that.
You see it all the time at the highest levels of volleyball. Like, professional players, college athletes, those top club teams,
Yeah.
they're all wearing knee pads and they're making these insane digs and saves, flying all over the court.
Right. So it's clearly not a case of knee pads equal bad defense.
No, not at all. But there are a few things that are really important for making it work. Like, first and foremost, you got to have good techniques. Like, even with knee pads, you still need to know how to dive and roll properly so you don't hurt yourself.
Right. That makes sense.
And then, obviously, the fit of the knee pads is super important.
Oh, we talked about that.
They need to stay in place. They can't be too tight or too loose. And then the last thing is just practice. You got to get used to playing with them so they feel like a natural part of your movement.
So it's like, yeah, you can definitely play great defense with knee pads, but you got to do it right.
Exactly.
And, this actually ties in really well with what we were talking about earlier about mastering those fundamental techniques. It seems like if you have that solid foundation in proper movement, the knee pads shouldn't really hold you back.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And, in the comprehensive guide, they actually talk about some specific drills for developing defensive skills,
Oh, right, yeah.
like the continuous serve-receive drill and the reaction and recovery drill. And those are drills that you can do with or without knee pads.
Right, because the focus is on the fundamentals, like reaction time, agility, controlling the ball. Those are the things that make you a good defender, whether you're wearing knee pad or not.
Exactly. So to sum it all up, it's not really a simple question of should you wear knee pads or not. It's more nuanced than that.
Right.
I mean, they definitely offer protection, which is huge, and they can give you more confidence to go for those tough plays. But like we talked about, there are some valid concerns about whether they could limit your movement or make you rely too much on the padding. And in the end, whether or not they help you play better defense really comes down to your technique, the fit of the pads, and how much you practice with them.
Yeah, it's really about finding what works best for you as an individual player.
Exactly. So for all you listeners out there, next time you're hitting the court, think about your own playing style, how comfortable you feel, and how much risk you're willing to take. And maybe experiment a little. Try practicing with knee pads. See how they feel. See if they affect your movement. See if you feel more confident diving for those balls. You might be surprised by what you discover.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance between protection and performance.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'll leave you with this. Thinking about everything we've discussed today, what changes, if any, might you make to your own approach to protective gear on the volleyball court? Whether you're a diehard knee pad fan or you've always been a little hesitant, it's definitely worth giving some thought.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.